Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. In what may be a major blow to Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, the joint investigation team, which was formed in April this year to probe the Sharif family's involvement in money laundering, on Monday recommended filing of a corruption case against him and his children after finding significant disparities in their income and actual wealth. The investigation team also accused Sharif's daughter Mariam of presenting fake documents to the probe team, which is said is a criminal offence. According to the team, Mariam Nawaz, her brothers Hussein and Hassan Nawaz, as well as her husband Mohammad Safdar, had signed false documents to mislead the Supreme Court. The six-member JIT also recommended that the family be tried under Pakistan's National Accountability Bureau Ordinance of 1999. The JIT report said that the assets of all four respondents were found to be more than the sources of their income. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the implications of the Panama Papers row on Pakistan politics and Indian diplomacy. Joining me on the program today are Smriti Patnaik, Research Fellow, Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis, Major General retired P.K. Sehgal, Defence Expert, Vinod Sharma, Political Editor of the Hindustan Times, and Vivek Katju, former Ambassador. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Vinod Sharma, I'd like to begin with you. How big a problem is this for Nawaz Sharif?
Pretty big, I think. And given his predicament, as we see it from the report of the JIT set up by the Supreme Court, you must know that Supreme Court, when it let off Nawaz Sharif in response to a petition by the opposition led by Imran Khan, it was a 3-2 verdict in his favor. Two judges, including the Chief Justice, had wanted him investigated and probed and prosecuted at that juncture itself. But the other three judges said that the evidence wasn't good enough, and they set up this JIT. Now,
before I let you continue, Ambassador wants to say a quick counter.
I think the real point in that petition was that under Articles 62 and 63 of the Constitution, the Prime Minister was not fit to become a member of Parliament because he infringed those articles and that he was not trustworthy. That was the basic
of
plea.
course, yeah, I stand corrected. There is a fine legal point as well.
Go on, Mr.
But
Sharma.
the broad issue was in the backdrop of the Panama Papers.
Correct.
And that is what was prompting the petition to the Supreme Court. Now, the end result now is that the JIT wants him investigated by the Ehtisab Bureau, what they call as the Accountability Commission, Accountability Bureau. And the charges against his family makes him look like kind of Lalu Prasad Yadav of Pakistan. Because this is what the Indian spin is on this, that Mr. Nawaz Sharif today, one of the most powerful leaders since Zulfikar Ali Bhutto that country has seen, though he was a child of the establishment, this man fought the establishment, let's accept that, in the early 90s, and he got a reinstallation to power by the Supreme Court judgment against the wishes of then President Ghulam Ishaq Khan. So that was the transformation from Nawaz Sharif from being a child of the establishment to becoming a rebel of sorts.
Right.
And another thing which we can perhaps admire in him is that very few people with this kind of wealth, he is the wealthiest man in Pakistan, have the guts and the courage to fight the establishment. He also fought 4 successive army chiefs.
Yes.
So perhaps that has all accumulated to revisit him. And he has been found with his hand in the bin because not just him, but his 2 sons and his daughter and son-in-law. And daughter actually is his heir aspirant, in the sense that he wants to take his politics to be taken forward through his daughter. So today he looks like he's in the same kind of corner that he's gotten painted as Lalu Prasad Yadav is back home. Now, whether he...
There was enough evidence which led them to conclude that he was untrustworthy and that he violated Articles 62 and 63 of the Constitution of Pakistan, which prescribe the conditions under which a person, the eligibility criteria to be a member of Parliament. 3 of the judges said that there was insufficient evidence in this regard, and therefore they said they cannot reach the conclusion which the other 2 had reached. So they asked for the appointment of the JIT. Now, the JIT has obviously given a very damning indictment of Nawaz Sharif. So, the Supreme Court has given the copies of the JIT's report to the petitioners and the defense, which is Nawaz Sharif and his family. And on the 17th, a hearing will begin on the JIT itself.
Right.
Now, if the Supreme, on one point I am clear, as Vinod has correctly said, the JIT has recommended that these people be tried by the National Accountability Bureau, and that will happen.
Yes.
The only point is this, that will, on the basis of the JIT report, the Supreme Court now reach the conclusion which the two judges had reached as minority in the Panama Papers case, that Nawaz Sharif must go.
Right.
Now, he can preempt all that in two ways. One, by resigning. He resigns. As of now, there is no indication that he is willing to take that.
Right.
The second is a very dicey proposition by asking for early elections, even while this judicial process is on. In which case, he will not have the stigma of having been kicked out. As far as the army is concerned, my last point, I think they will abide by whatever the Supreme Court has said. This is what they have said on record, because let us remember that in the JIT, there is a member of the ISI and of military intelligence, and the corps commanders, in a very extraordinary step, soon after the JIT was constituted, had said that they will honor the apex court and come up to its expectations. And they made some kind of a vague statement, but in that direction, again, on Monday.
Right. You know, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Sharma, but let me bring in the general at this juncture, because we're talking about the Pakistan Armed Forces. You know, Mr. Sharma, as well as Ambassador Katju, raised the issue of the Pakistan Armed Forces. You know, General, they've been quiet thus far. They haven't said much, but, you know, but they clearly be watching everything that's been happening very closely.
You're absolutely right. They'll be watching very carefully, but if you remember, right from the time of General Kiani, the army has refrained from interfering. And that's been a very good thing. Earlier, in any case, the army always was very keen to take over. As far as powers are concerned, de facto powers are already with the army. It is the army which is running Pakistan. Nawaz Sharif is being used as a facade, as an upfront. And it suits Nawaz Sharif as well as the army. To that extent, the army is keeping quiet. And I don't think they will interfere or intervene at all. However, what happens after 17th of July is something that only time will tell. There would be a temptation. Would they fall for it? They will also try and look at the international environment. The international environment may not be in favor of that. Right. Particularly if you look at what's happening as far as the terrorism is concerned, international pressures on Pakistan, etc. Except for China, perhaps no other country would permit Pakistan to do what the army would want it to do.
Fair enough. That's very well assessed there as far as what the army's role is going to be in the near future. But yes, Mr. Sharma, you wanted to say something.
No, what I was trying to say was that there has been a couple of weeks back some thinking to the effect that Mr. Nawaz Sharif could explore the possibility of appointing either Ishaq Dar, who is the finance minister, or his own brother, Shahbaz Sharif. But at the same time, there is a problem in the family.
You know, these names had come up in April as well.
Yes, yes. There is a problem in the family or the acceptability of Shahbaz Sharif, though the veneer of unity is there. But inside the family, there is a definitive lack of trust between the families of Nawaz Sharif and Shahbaz Sharif. So I wonder whether that will happen. But it's just about a year to go. In May 2018, elections are to take place in Pakistan. And may I tell you one thing, that Nawaz Sharif is a great gambler. And he doesn't lack the courage to take on, to fight it up to the end, So I wouldn't put it beyond him if he goes for early elections. And today, the state of the Pakistan People's Party is as abysmal as that, unfortunately, in our country of the Congress. And the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has fallen from grace as badly as, unfortunately, the Aam Aadmi Party in our country. Yes, these are two parallels which are there.
You're on the roll today drawing parallels with everything that's happening here in India.
To make your viewers understand that is the situation today. So even in its bad shape, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz remains a formidable political force in that country. And on the development front, they have been able to meet the requirements of the people insofar as power supply is concerned and so many other issues is concerned. So Nawaz Sharif is in a very sorry state. He is down definitively, but I won't be able to wager whether he is out.
Okay, fair enough. You know, I'm going to come to
that is not possible. He is also one of the
he's one of the fellows. He's been made to appear before.
I'm going to come to you, Ambassador, for a reaction on that. But before that, let me bring in Smriti Patnaik as well, who's not had a say thus far on the program. You know, is this really going to change anything on the border, Smriti?
Well, on the border, it is army which is holding the fort. So I really do not think the political changes within the country will have any larger implications as far as the India-Pakistan relations is concerned, as far as the tension in the LOC is concerned. So the boss there is someone who is different and who is not affected by the political crisis which is brewing in Islamabad at present. But also at the same time, I would like to add a particular point as far as the political situation within Pakistan is concerned. Number one is that the army for a long time has been trying to see that, a kind of political protege which will help them in terms of I would say Imran Khan, the sit-ups, the sit-ins which he did in Islamabad did not happen without the blessing of the army. And the thing is that he can't muster the kind of support where he can be the Prime Minister and can, be a big player. So the fact is that if Nawaz Sharif goes, if, there is tomorrow an election with the possibility of PMLN returning to power, I really do not know whether it will be acceptable to the current players, where I see a definite kind of move to remove Nawaz and probably somewhere get Imran Khan to play some kind of role. But I don't think he also has that kind of political support within the country even to play that kind of role.
This Imran Khan has not, his party hasn't equated itself very well in Northwest Frontier, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And some of the positions he has taken, with all respects to Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, they have been as maximalist as that of the positions of Mr. Kejriwal himself, Say, for instance, now not allowing the American troops the right of passage into Afghanistan. Now, for a Prime Minister to live with these kind of promises in a country like Pakistan makes it very difficult for even the establishment which is permanent in that country. So, and to that extent, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz is a political force that is flexible, that has been playing blow hot and blow cold with the army, but broadly it has been on the side of the civil military establishment when it comes to grave national issues from their standpoint. So I wonder, you see, in fact, if you take Nawaz Sharif out, where is the alternative today on the political scenario in Pakistan? Yes, of course, army can prop up anyone, and that person may survive for some time, like Chaudhry Shujat used to be propped up, by the army, or there are other people. There used to be, there was a political leader in Sindh. These people were always the ones who were nurtured, Pir Pagara, they were all nurtured by the army. And whenever they would make a statement, people would read meaning into those statements. This is the mind of the Pakistani Fauj, So, but we don't even have those kind of people today in Pakistan.
So there is no alternative.
I'm saying that not that one can see it. There may be an alternative eventually.
Eventually, but not right now. Yeah, yes, Ambassador.
Look, the real problem will be that if the family, Sharif family, doesn't hold together, and the Nawaz Sharif branch, including Nawaz Sharif, are disqualified from contesting elections, then the PMLN has a problem. And at that stage, we'll be entering into untested waters of Pakistani politics. I tend to agree with Vinod that Imran Khan is a political maverick. I don't know whether he is of the kind who can really lead a country as Prime Minister. You know, especially his relations with the army might be very difficult because he doesn't have the kind of malleability that the Pakistan army seeks. The PPP and the Bhuttos have very little role or clout in the Punjab. So it will be the Punjab which will be in confusion and will be up for grabs if the Sharifs have to go. At the end of the day, I think the Nawaz Sharif clan will have to accept Shahbaz and perhaps also accept his son Hamza. Because what is the alternative? And the PMLN may now go to him because Shahbaz is a very savvy customer. Let's not forget that he is really good as a politico, and the party may rally around him, but it's going to be a very untidy process.
Okay, an untidy process, you know, in the near future. General, you know, as far as the army itself is concerned, India doesn't deal with the Pakistani army. India deals with the democratically elected government in Pakistan. So, should India be concerned with what's happening in Pakistan at the moment?
India is always and every time is concerned, because if Pakistan becomes a little more unstable, that creates difficulties for us. In the event of any instability in Pakistan, we are always worried about their nukes, etc., their tactical nuclear weapons, etc., falling into wrong hands. As far as Jaish-e-Mohammed, LET, Hizbul Mujahideen, they are all being fully supported by the Pakistani army and the ISI. If the army and the ISI continue to be the way they are, there is only a political instability and not the instability where the nation's security is at stake. Personally, I think things will be the way they are, but India would be watching the scenario very, very, very carefully.
Okay. You know, is it going to affect India's diplomacy, Ambassador?
I don't see that happening. Look, at the end of the day, even if there is the mask of an elected government in Pakistan, we know full well that the effective rulers as far as India is concerned is the Pakistan
But we
army.
don't deal with the Pakistani army.
No, the Pakistan army also doesn't deal with us. I mean, they want to stay back. They don't want to come out in the open unless they are holding political office.
Right.
So, I don't see that effectively there will be any change. Because even Pakistani retired officials say that, look, at that India policy is determined in Rawalpindi. So, if that is the truth, then I don't see any cause of concern if there is political instability. We've seen political instability in Pakistan, but the army coheres, and it is an army which gives us enormous trouble, but that is the institution we have to deal with in Pakistan.
Right. You know, Smriti Patnaik, as far as Nawaz Sharif itself is concerned, what are his options really, and how is he going to try and keep the flock together at this, you know, very crucial juncture?
I think probably, as Ambassador Katju mentioned, that, you know, the alternative has to come from within the PMLN, because I really do not see any other political party gaining any kind of majority except for PMLN. The party still has the support base intact, and also at the same time, in between, I think after the transition to democracy, I think Shahbaz Sharif is the only one who was, in fact, the go between the army and his brother. Whether it was his visit to India for the inauguration of the Prime Minister Modi's government, or whether it was initially, you know, in especially when during the PPP's time, when the government was sacked on the decision of the court at that point of time, it was Shahbaz Sharif and Chaudhry Nisar who were consulted by Kayani at that point of time. So I think he is one person who is acceptable to the army, and at one point of time when the army was contemplating about, you know, whether, you know, Nawaz Sharif will be the right kind of choice, that point of time there were also talks that whether Shahbaz Sharif can take over. But as Ambassador Katju has already mentioned, that I think the alternative has to come from within the army, from the PMLN, and since there is not much choice, probably Shahbaz Sharif, I agree that he probably is the best alternative who appears at this point of time.
You know, I'm going to get closing comments from all my guests now because I've got about 4 minutes left on the program, so in 1 minute each. You know, Vinod Sharma, we've spoken about how there is no real opposition in Pakistan and it's difficult for another leader to come up and, you know, take the reins from Nawaz Sharif, so to speak. So who stands to gain the most in this present scenario?
Of course, the army, though it can't intervene directly, the movement towards democracy and peaceful transition of power in Pakistan, it has seen for the first time when PPP transferred power to PML Nawaz after the elections. And there is a near total consensus within the Pakistani polity that army intervention or army rule is unacceptable. And there have been some amendments to the constitution as well to prevent that eventuality. Now, how robust those amendments were, can only be tested if the army applies its mind to grab power. That would not happen. I agree with Ambassador Katju that Shahbaz Sharif, if there is a consensus within the family, would be the best bet because he has been traditionally Nawaz Sharif's interface with the army. He has been in regular touch with the army. And he is more acceptable to the army than top brass, I may say, than Nawaz Sharif himself. Though Nawaz Sharif has considerable support amongst the lower and middle-level officials of the Pakistan army. You know, because remember always that Nawaz Sharif's support base has always been the support base of the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, which is kind of sharing political space with parties like Jamaat-e-Islami, you know. So he is someone who is both a liberal and also acceptable to the conservative lobby within Pakistan. I mean, I'm using the word charitably conservative lobby. So he is a guy who is acceptable. But Shahbaz Sharif, being the Prime Minister, Chief Minister of Pakistan, is a formidable political figure. He has not been the Chief Minister for the first time. This is perhaps the third time he is the Chief Minister. So he is more acceptable. But at the same time, there are two other names, though Ambassador Katju ruled out Ishaq Dar. But Ishaq Dar is not an accused in Panama paper, though he appeared before the GIT.
Right.
And Ishaq Dar is a better administrator. He has a better knowledge of economy. He's a finance minister. He's very well regarded by the Sharif family. And then the Chaudhry Nisar thing, you know. Chaudhry Nisar comes from an army family, you know. And he's the interior minister. So there is a choice, but you know, the army can even prop up somebody like Balakhshir Mazari, whom they did prop up after Nawaz Sharif was in 90s dismissed by, you know, was reinstalled before he was reinstalled by the court. So, I mean, questions are there, answers are difficult to get right now.
Answers are difficult to get right now, but in due course of time, we will get those answers. General, you know, talking about what's happening within Pakistan itself, you know, domestically, Pakistan has been facing a hell of a lot of problems over the last few years, and we've seen that happening. Is the political instability in Pakistan going to change any of that? Do you think it's going to get worse?
I am not too sure about that, but it will certainly be something that we'll have to be worried about. I am of the firm conviction that under the present circumstances, Nawaz Sharif has lost its standing, his image, national and international level. And this would be capitalized in a very major way by his brother Shahbaz, who I feel is a very capable person and equally clever.
Okay, right.
He has had very formidable working relations with the army, and despite the family agreeing on him or not agreeing on him, he may still be propped up.
Fair enough. Ambassador, your closing comments on the program.
Well, Pakistan is in a real political crisis. And I think the ball at this time is not only with the Supreme Court, which it is, because it will really up to the judges to give their ruling, and the army and others will follow. But it is also with Nawaz. And at this time, he will be weighing his choices very carefully in consultation with his colleagues. And it's impossible to predict what precise step he will take.
Sure.
But whichever step...
Would you say his options are limited?
His options, of course, are limited, because if he goes in for an election, he has to hand over power to a caretaker government.
Right.
And if he doesn't and is kicked out then it will be a blow to him and the party is in trouble. So either way, it's, as they say, a Hobson's choice for him.
Indeed, indeed. Close the show for us, Smriti Patnaik, with your concluding remarks.
I'll just say if you look at the Pakistan's military takeover, always there is a 10-year kind of cycle. So I see it a kind of 10-year kind of cycle, but I think it is better for the army to keep the democratic front alive while they really rule the country.
Okay.
Without any kind of political blame. I think that works for the army, and that probably is going to be the choice.
No, but for me, the most interesting thing is whether the Supreme Court will disqualify a Punjabi Prime Minister.
Okay, on that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. I'd like to thank all my guests, Smriti Patnaik, PK Sehgal, Vinod Sharma and Vivek Katju for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have today. See you again next time.